Hello and welcome to the No Show 20. Today we're going to be talking about airlines and how they're going to be affected and how they are affected by COVID-19. Joining me, Fionn, we have Jamie, we have Aaron, we have Andrea and Fraser. Take it away, guys.
Okay, well, so we obviously know kind of the current climate of what is happening at the moment with COVID-19, and I'm sure everyone is aware that the airline industry is severely impacted because nobody is really traveling anywhere because we're not allowed to leave our houses, let alone the country. So it's taken a big hit. So what we're going to talk about is kind of what airlines have been doing to kind of try keep afloat and why some of them aren't faring so well during this. So I think Jamie's going to kind of start us off by talking about kind of passenger planes talk about kind of carrying cargo.
Yeah, so globally, 45% of all cargo is carried by passenger planes, and this is an additional source of revenue for airlines during normal time. But now, with no passengers, this is their only source of revenue, which is still coming in. And in fact, many airlines have actually started taking out their seats and replacing it with cargo. Now, this does impact the loading and unloading times. It is a definite advantage to having no cargo at all, isn't it, guys?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was going to say there is that these planes, especially kind of the passenger planes, they hold nowhere near as much cargo as a freighter designed to carry cargo. If you kind of look at the A330, it holds about, the passenger one holds about 17,000 kilograms, whereas the freighter carries 60,000. So there's kind of a huge difference between the two, and it kind of begs the question: is it really viable to transport cargo that way?
Well, I think it has to be, because it is their only source of revenue. Just it might be half what they're getting at the moment, so maybe they're not be making a profit, but at least they're not going bankrupt like several companies say, like EasyJet.
Yeah.
And having to be bought over by other companies to save their bacon.
Well, also it's kind of the fact that, especially in America anyway, they have to employ airline companies have to employ their staff as part of the kind of the relief that the government is giving airline companies. So they have to employ their staff even if they're not working. So I think that these sorts of cargo flights, which are empty of passengers but filled with kind of cargo, the company is making some sort of money in the fact that they're not just employing these people to sit at home, they're employing the people to fly the planes, to use for the cabin crew to help package things and stuff.
Andrea, could you tell us a little bit about like how many people per plane would be needed for it to be profitable, just to give us an idea of how we're going to be affected?
Yeah, so the golden rule pretty much is 75% of the seats need to be taken for it actually to be profitable. EasyJet put out an announcement. They were suggesting to remove all the middle seats and not sell those seats for social distancing and see if they could still make a profit. But as we know, that's going below the 75% golden rule. So that's going to be a major problem for them actually trying to make these flights possible and profitable.
And is social distancing, do you think, going to be possible in the airports?
Yeah, so that's also going to be a big problem. John Holland Kay from who runs the Heathrow Airport actually put out a statement saying that he thinks that it's physically impossible to social distance in any volume of passengers in an airport.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. If you have a low enough capacity and you have enough organization, I'd say, no more hanging around in the airport for 3 hours. You get in, you go in, I don't know, a single lane straight to security, straight to your gate. I'd say social distancing is entirely possible with enough organization.
Yeah, but
if you don't mind me
Sorry.
if you don't mind me jumping in there, just kind of if you think about it, there's usually the kind of the why airports are so busy and it would be hard to social distances because there'd be lots of holiday goers, but that's going to be quite decreased with kind of the current climate of what's going on. The more people will be mainly traveling for work or business and stuff like that, rather than kind of recreational purposes. So perhaps the airports won't be busy at all, as well as also even if people were going on holidays, not as many people will be going on holidays simply because they'll be scared to go on planes.
Yeah, but John Holland K was talking about like any real volume of passengers in the airport. So it's not about like whether, with less people we'll be able to, but like, do you think there will be enough people in the airports for it to, keep running and be profitable?
It is quite it's kind of interesting if you think about it, that nobody really knows. Like only kind of airport analysts would kind of know the footpath of people going through that airport on a day-to-day basis, and how many people it would take to be profitable. But as Andrea said, 75% of a plane has to be full to make it profitable. That is a huge amount of people. If you look at kind of the A320s, which are kind of a baseline small aircraft, especially for traveling within Europe or within states in America, that's 320 seats. 75 of that is 240 people. 240 people per plane. And let's say 10 planes take off that a day. That's 2,400 people traveling through that airport, which is an awful lot of people. Just kind of to make that airplane profitable.
Yeah.
Especially with airports, like I'd say around, I've just looked it up there, around a third of their money comes from not just planes, but from people spending money inside the plane, inside the airports, with additional baggage fees, or especially in the duty-free area. So if people aren't, standing around waiting for their flights or congregating in the duty-free shopping area, that could be a massive hit to their revenue stream.
Definitely, yeah. But kind of moving away from airports, I'd say, but kind of moving more towards kind of the airlines themselves. You mentioned there at the start, Jamie, EasyJet going out of business, and it was a British kind of run country, EasyJet company, and it's been kind of in decline for quite a few years, but the coronavirus has just kind of stopped it in its tracks. Do you think that this is kind of the path for quite a few small airplane companies? Because I know Qantas Australia has filed for bankruptcy as well, so it's quite bad for kind of airlines themselves. Do you think that other airlines will be this will be happening to them kind of in the near future?
Yeah, well, it's like if you look at, for example, if you just look at like Ryanair or like Aer Lingus, you can see that recently, if you look at their stock prices, they've been like surging now as we've been going into the summer, because like a number of European countries, you see they've been like relaxing their restrictions. Like Spain and Italy and Portugal, Greece and Cyprus, they've been removing a lot of their visitor restrictions, and they're going to be like opening hotels and beaches for like July and August. Because like you look at Ryanair, they've been advertising how their new fares, they've been advertising their new fares and how competitive they are, rivaling like EasyJet, and they're up by nearly like 12% in their stock price, which given the current circumstances, that's pretty crazy considering how like little planes they currently have going.
Yeah, just kind of on that, we can't talk about Ryanair. There's a news article the other day of people being refused entry onto Ryanair planes without wearing face masks, and Ryanair was the first kind of airline to introduce it. Not very many other airlines have followed. I know BA have put out a statement saying that if they advise people to wear it, but you won't be refused boarding, as well as Aer Lingus is the same because Aer Lingus is owned by BA. But it's just kind of, do you think that wearing face masks will kind of they would have to be mandatory on a plane from now on?
Well, I feel like, yeah, because like face masks would only be effective if everybody's wearing them, because they don't do much in stopping an uninfected person getting infected. But if you are infected and you wear a face mask, your risk of infecting somebody else is like greatly reduced. So obviously, to actually have viable air travel, everybody would need to wear face masks, and they'd probably need to give them out like at check-in or something at airports.
Aaron, just on the kind of hygiene side of things, do you think it's responsible, or is at this like kind of later stage, it's like okay for people to travel, especially towards like southern countries, that your less developed countries that might be able to deal with it? Do you think it's okay for people to travel worldwide?
Well, I feel like we got to be careful because like it's not over yet, and if people start like traveling too soon, then it could just see a resurgence in everything, which would then delay everything even further.
Yeah, and I think personally that there should be certain countries who don't have the proper equipment and healthcare facilities to deal with any infected people. I think maybe there should be restrictions on travel towards those countries to reduce it even arriving.
I think that's kind of happening kind of at the moment, is that countries which think that we're not really coping with the people that we have here, why would we introduce more people? Those countries have not opened their borders yet. They're trying to keep them enclosed.
Yeah,
so not all developing countries. I mean, like you go on like a long haul flight. There are.
But just kind of on that film is that quite a few of the developing countries don't have as bad of cases as in Europe. Europe and America are the epicenter of where this virus is coming from.
Because
that's because it's not traveling there.
Countries, they don't exactly have the infrastructure to test, so we don't exactly know.
We don't exactly know.
Countries,
but also what some people are theorizing is that maybe the heat kills off part of the virus. It's unknown kind of what cause is like what's happening with the virus. It's something that humans at the moment we don't really have a grasp on. But just there's just kind of talking about, the film was talking about that. I just thought that it's countries which don't have the facilities to cope with what's happening in their own country at the moment, they're not really allowing people in. So do you have anything to say on that?
Well, just like in relation to like countries closing their borders, if you look at like Australia, right as it started happening, they've like completely shut down their borders, not letting anybody in, and they've nearly eradicated it because they've greatly reduced any new cases they've been getting.
Yeah.
And especially if you travel from say a non-infected country to another non-infected country, if one person has like an asymptomatic case and they're on a long-haul flight for 8-9 hours, the chances of them infecting one of their fellow passengers is extremely high. Even more if none of them are wearing face masks. So maybe I really do think air travel should be restricted quite a lot, because it is just the perfect breeding ground and the perfect opportunity for COVID cases to spread to hundreds of people in a couple of hours.
Yeah, definitely. There is, I just kind of trying to keep the ball rolling a bit here, that we can't really talk about air travel without acknowledging that the huge decrease in the price of jet fuel. It used to be about $2.40 per gallon, and now it's gone down to about 40 cents per gallon. So perhaps this is a sort of saving grace for some airlines, is that they're able to conduct flights at a much less cost, because that is a huge amount of what airline expenditure is on is jet fuel. So perhaps this is actually quite good for airlines in a sense.
Well, I think that as soon as airlines start going back up again, there would be a greater demand for the fuel, which means as soon as they say, oh look, the oil price is super low, then they will take advantage of it, and then this oil price will go right up again, which means I doubt it's that much of a saving grace in the near future.
Exactly. That's actually a very good point. But I think part of kind of the low fuel costs, though, is also kind of due to fuel that would be previously used on cars or other kind of vehicles like that. That traffic has also been kind of greatly reduced as well. So if only really flights are going back, it could still be significantly cheaper, don't you think?
Yeah, especially if they bought like the cheap oil that is now, if they bought this oil like in bulk for the future before the oil prices rise up again, that might be a smart move.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
again, as soon as people start buying in bulk, that's how the stock market goes up again.
Yeah, exactly. But
Like this.
there will be the opportunist airlines that are gonna, be a little bit ahead of the rest and are gonna really, save themselves because of it.
Perhaps some airlines will do that. It's again hard to know because the issue of kind of storing fuel is also quite big. Is that quite a few airlines don't have very big reserves of where they're going to put their fuel. It's usually just kind of on demand fuel. When they need it, they get it, rather than kind of having big stores of it. They only really usually keep what they need for a certain week or a day. So I don't think they would really have the facilities to kind of stock up on the cheap jet fuel at the moment, or as Sean was saying, like buying in bulk, because they just simply don't have the facilities to keep it anywhere.
Yes.
Then moving back on to cargo planes, we were talking about this kind of earlier on, but we did kind of neglect actual cargo planes. We talked a lot about passenger planes being used as cargo planes, but cargo planes have actually their kind of foot traffic has actually gone up. In if you look at kind of air tracking radars, the majority of planes are now cargo planes. And
Yeah.
lots of companies are kind of bringing in old planes, like just recently recent planes which have gone out of service back into service for this increased demand in kind of PPE delivery, or just kind of online deliveries and stuff like that. Does anyone have anything to say about that?
I definitely think that online deliveries have increased majorly since the quarantine period. We've ordered many things off of Amazon since then that we wouldn't usually.
Exactly, yeah. Like cargo companies are just trying to keep up with the amount of orders that they're getting. But even just kind of going back to PPE, China used to make 50% of the world's PPE reserves, making about, I think it was 200 million gloves per year, where that has actually gone up hugely due to the coronavirus. So cargo plane costs traveling from the airport base of Shanghai in China, traveling to America or traveling to Europe, has significantly gone up because these planes are packed to the brim full of PPE for kind of the Europe and America.
In fact, I think the lack of demand for, say, other products and the increased demand for PPE has actually outpaced the capacity of cargo airlines. And I was just looking up there, in fact, there's 8% gap between the demand and the capacity. So any planes that start flying cargo or start flying more cargo would definitely have an increase in profits from doing absolutely nothing and waiting for passenger airlines to get back to normal.
Exactly, yeah. And then also we kind of saw some cargo planes which would be usually used for kind of specific stuff. Airbus and Boeing, they use planes to transport fuselages of planes which are being built, like the Airbus Beluga or the Boeing Dreamlifter. Some of those are trying to be used as sort of delivery cargo planes, but because of their huge size, they're just so costly to run. So it's interesting to see that all these different companies are trying to think of ways to keep air cargo flying, basically.
Okay, everybody, that is it for today's installment of the No Show. Make sure to tune in next time, whenever that may be, where we'll talk about more stuff.
And if you have any suggestions for future, please email us at thenoshow20@gmail.com. Thank you very much.